All right, well, time is running out, so let's get to the last question by Gregory. What are the implications of epidemics within the plant kingdom? Hypothetically, what is a measure of crop loss and the economic impact, especially if there are huge decreases in agricultural yield due to plant pathogens? Have there been epidemics within this context?
Well, there certainly have, and the iconic example is, of course, the Irish potato famine of 1847 to 1849, when a whole nation of 9 million people subsisted on a single clone of one crop, which was the potato, and then Phytophthora infestans, not a fungus, and Oomycete, a water mold, entered Europe, spread throughout Europe. The potato originated in South America, and so did the disease. Finally, the disease caught up with the potato, and it decimated the crop literally overnight. And then about 1.5 million people died of starvation. Another 1.5 million emigrated very shortly afterwards. And over the subsequent 5 years, 5 million Irish people emigrated to Australia, the UK, and America. And in the 2000 census in America, 40 million people in this country claimed Irish descent. So you can see in that case, when everybody's living on a small single crop or inbred crop, it's highly susceptible. And this is repeated time after time. We saw the collapse of the coffee industry in Sri Lanka that the British had. The collapse of the cacao industry in Brazil. Many, many cases of monocultures dropping because of disease. And we create those conditions by having high-density farms. Currently, the global community is rather concerned with a pathogen of wheat, which is called UG99, which has evolved in Uganda in 1999. And 80 to 90% of the world's wheat is susceptible to this pathogen. So the large bread baskets of the US or Russia are highly susceptible to diseases spreading. So we create these ideal conditions. So absolutely we can have population crashes, and that can lead to a whole suite of knock-on effects. Rather recently, we've seen that a lot of the violence in the Middle East, the Arab Springs, came about because of massive spikes in wheat prices in 2008. And so a lot of people are concerned with as food productivity goes down because of these diseases, we see correspondingly increases in social unrest. So balancing food security is really important, not just for the moral imperative of saving people's lives, but it's also really important for the global security.
Don't we get some of these problems when we have issues with the pollinators as well, though?
Yep.
So as we lose the pollinators from some sort of infection, or we even have a cross that occurs. So let's say we use DDT to get rid of all the mosquitoes in an area because we're trying to control malaria, and then we lose a number of other pollinators as well. Couldn't we have it from not just an infection of a plant?
Sure, you can have an infection of the plant itself, but as you say, when you lose those pollinators, so currently in the US over the last 5 years, we've lost roughly 30% of the pollinators, the colonies have collapsed for a whole range of conditions that we don't know exactly why. Diseases are important, movement, weather, pesticides, and the knock-on effect is that we just can't pollinate all the crops that we need to. That's really, really challenging. And it's remarkable if you look at your breakfast plate, how much of that, or your daily food, relies upon the essential services of pollinator bees.
Yeah, I've always found that interesting. There's this, there's a lot of talk these days in the US about this citrus greening disease, right? What is that?
So we're now seeing the essential collapse of the orange industry in Florida due to the psyllid, which is it's a bacterial disease which is getting in because of an insect which is vectoring it. So again, classically we grow these oranges like all the other crops we talked about in high densities. A pathogen gets in which was never previously there. It's transmitted by a vector, which is an insect moving from one place to one place. And the only solution we have is to burn all the trees. We have absolutely nothing in the toolbox in order to help us control this.
And it looks like if it goes on like this, it is truly just destroying the whole industry.
Exactly, and we've seen examples in many, many places before. And so the only solution we've seen there, and Katrina Harmon wrote a beautiful piece in the New York Times about this, is that we'll have to think about genetically modifying the plant in order to have an effective defense, because the plant all by itself can't do it. Had we thought about this 30 years previous, we could have invested more in classical breeding programs to have a natural defense. But unfortunately, we didn't. We felt a monoculture was a really good system, and that seems to be a rather silly thing for us to have done collectively. So now the only solution is either not have oranges or have genetically modified oranges in Florida.
Right.
In the piece, rather beautifully, one of the farmers said, well, some people are opposed to genetically modified oranges. And his reaction was, well, in that case, they'll have to have apple juice because we won't have anything in the morning.
Right. Good. Well, with that, let's close here. And thanks again for the questions, and please keep them coming. See you soon.